You tell yourself you don't have time, but that's not what's happening. Welcome back to Iron Suits, where strength wears the crown. I am your host, Marwan Kilu. This is episode 3, why busy men don't have time problems. They have control problems. You've got the same hours as everyone else. You build companies with less. You've closed deals in chaos. You've executed under conditions that would flatten most people. So it's not time. It's that you can't control it the way you control everything else. And that's a problem. Let me say that differently. You don't lack time to train. You lack the ability to impose structure on a system that doesn't obey you. Your business does what you tell it to. Your team responds to pressure. Your competitors react to your moves. Your body doesn't. Your schedule doesn't. And for the first time in years, effort alone won't solve it. You thought about hiring someone just to handle this for you, because that's what you do with problems that won't go away. And that's what I see when a client comes to me and says he's too busy. He's not too busy. He's just overwhelmed by the fact that his usual tools don't work. He can't negotiate with his physiology. He can't delegate his recovery. He can't outthink his cortisol or out-hustle his sleep debt. And because control is how he survived, the loss of it reads as failure. So he defaults. He tells himself it's a time problem, because time problems are external. Time problems aren't his fault. But control problems are internal. And that requires a different conversation. Here's what you won't say out loud. You're annoyed that your body requires maintenance. You resent that it doesn't just work the way it used to. You've built systems for everything else. You've automated, you've optimized, you've hired people smarter than you to handle what you don't want to touch. But you can't outsource this. And you're angry about it. Not at me, at your schedule. At the fact that your biology won't respect your authority. Let's talk about what control actually looks like when it worked. Early in your career, you could push. You could work late, skip meals, sleep less, train inconsistently, recover on coffee and momentum. And it worked, because your system was stable enough to absorb the chaos. Your baseline was high, your margin was error was wide, and your body hadn't accumulated years of stress without resolution. You weren't controlling your health then either. You were just borrowing against it. And the bill wasn't due yet. Now it is. And suddenly, effort doesn't compound the way it used to. You can't just push through a training block. You can't just make it happen with 4 hours of sleep. You can't just get after it when your CNS is fried and your inflammation is chronic. The old playbook doesn't apply. And because you're intelligent, you know this. But because you're successful, you keep trying anyway. You've stood in the mirror and wondered when this became the hard part. Not the deal, not the hire, this. This is the trap. You think the problem is volume, too many meetings, too many responsibilities, too many demands. So you try to create space. You block out time for the gym. You commit to meal prep. You set alarms for sleep. And it works for a week. And it works for a week, maybe two. Then something breaks. A deal closes late. A fire needs putting out. A trip gets added to the calendar. And the structure you built collapses. Not because you're undisciplined, because the structure was designed for control. And your life isn't controllable. Let me get specific. Control-based systems require consistency. They need the same time slots, the same routine, the same conditions. Your life offers none of that. Your schedule shifts, your energy shifts, your stress shifts. And when the system can't flex, it breaks. So you rebuild it. And then it breaks again. And eventually you just stop rebuilding. Not because you don't care, because the system was never designed for instability. Here's what you're actually dealing with. You don't need more time. You need a framework that works when conditions are variable. You need training that adapts when you can't. You need nutrition that holds under pressure. You need recovery that doesn't require a perfect week. This isn't about discipline. It's about design. The men I work with are not lazy. They're the opposite. They're so committed to effort that they keep using it in situations where effort is not the answer. They show up to the gym tired and train anyway. They skip meals because there's no time, then binge at night because their body is screaming. They push through soreness, through fatigue, through inflammation, because pushing through is what built their business and is destroying them. Because effort without context is just damage. You've canceled plans because you didn't want to be seen like this. Not by clients, by people who knew you before. Let's get deeper. You build your business by controlling inputs. You controlled your calendar, your pipeline, your hiring, your positioning. You learned that if you manage variables, you manage the outcome. And that may be true in business. It is true in business. But it's not true in your body. Your body is a dynamic system. It doesn't respond to force. It responds to signal. And the signal you're sending it right now is threat, inconsistent sleep, chronic stress, underfed, overworked, no resolution. Your nervous system doesn't know you're closing a deal. It just thinks you're under attack. So it adapts. It downgrades your metabolism. It increases cortisol. It prioritizes survival over performance. It makes you store fat even when you're eating less. It makes you tired even when you sleep. It makes you weaker even when you train. And you interpret this as failure. But it's not failure. It's your body doing exactly what it's designed to do under sustained threat. Here's a shift. You can't control your schedule, but you can control the signal you send. You can train in a way that builds instead of depletes. You can eat in a way that stabilizes instead of spikes. You can structure your body So you can rather you can structure recovery so your body knows it's safe. This doesn't require more hours. It requires more precision. Let me tell you what this looks like in practice. You have 3 meetings back to back, then a flight, then a dinner. No time to train. Old model, skip it, feel guilty, try again Monday. New model, 20 minutes, 4 movements, enough stimulus to signal growth without creating a recovery debt that you can't pay. You're not trying to replicate a perfect session. You're trying to stay in the game. Same thing with food. You used to think eating well requires prep time, cooking, planning, perfect macros. And when you couldn't do that, you ate garbage or skipped entirely. But the gap between perfect and nothing is where you live right now. So the question becomes, what's the minimum effective dose, minimum effective structure that keeps your metabolism stable? Not optimal, stable. Protein every meal, hydration, fiber, micronutrients when you get them, where you get them. It's not sexy, it's functional. And function is what you need when control isn't available. You're starting to see it now. This isn't about time management. It's about system design under constraints. And the reason you haven't solved it yet is because you've been treating it like a scheduling problem. But it's a physiological one. Here's what no one tells you. The habits that made you successful in business are liabilities in your body. Now, I said it before in a previous podcast about a title for a book that's really good. I believe it was called The Skills That Got You into Egypt and the Skills That Are Going to Take You to the Promised Land. And I think it was by Dan Kennedy, a famous marketer. Hey, really good book. Pushing through discomfort, ignoring signals, delaying gratification, optimizing for short-term output. These are assets when you're building. They are liabilities when you're recovering. And you're in a stage now where recovery is the constraint. Not effort, not discipline, recovery. Your body doesn't care how hard you work. It cares whether you've created conditions for adaptation. And right now you haven't. Not because you're lazy, because you're still trying to control a system that doesn't respond to control. Let me give you the framework. Stop building rigid systems. Start building flexible principles. Principle 1, something always beats nothing. 20 minutes beats 0. Protein and veg beats skipping. 6 hours of sleep beats 4. You're not chasing perfection. You're chasing consistency over chaos. Principle 2, signal matters more than volume. You don't need to train for 90 minutes. You need to send a signal that you're still building. 3 hard sets done well will do that. Principle 3, stability is the foundation. If your sleep is broken, your nutrition is erratic, and your stress is unmanaged, adding more training is just not going to help. It's just going to break you faster. You've got to fix the foundation first. And here's the part that's hard to accept. You don't get to control when this happens. You don't get to dictate the timeline. Your body will adapt when it's ready, not when you are. And that requires you to release something you've held onto your entire career. The belief that force creates results. Force creates results in negotiation, in sales, in execution, but not in physiology. Physiology requires patience. It requires signal. It requires creating conditions and then trusting the process. And I know that sounds soft to you, but it's not. It's actually the hardest thing that you're going to do, because it requires you to stop controlling and start trusting. You thought about what it would mean if this is just how it is now. If the version of you that could eat anything and still look good is just gone. So here's where we are. You don't have a time problem. You have a control problem. And the solution isn't more discipline. It's a different system. One that works when your schedule doesn't. One that builds when your life is unstable. One that doesn't require you to have a perfect week to make progress. You already know how to execute under pressure. Now you need to learn how to build under it. That's the work. Not motivation, not tactics. System designed for variable conditions. And when you get this right, something shifts. Your body stops feeling like another thing that you have to manage. And it starts feeling like the foundation everything else is built on. Not because you controlled it, because you designed for it. And that's the episode today. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, then leave me a review on iTunes, good or bad. I'd love to hear from you. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so that you get notifications when a new episode goes live, and share it with another leader. Because as I keep saying, as iron sharpeneth iron, so one man sharpens another even. And that's how we spread the message. Follow me on my socials. I am on facebook.com, Marwan Kilu. Or you can find me on LinkedIn under Marwan Kilu Fitness. You can watch this episode on YouTube under Marwan Kilu. And that's it for now. I'll talk to you on the next episode.